My name is Tom and I love all types of cars, especially turbocharged ones. I also enjoy wrenching and racing, so let's see what we can get into today in the Turbo Garage. In this episode, we're finally giving my Grand National some much needed attention. This attention will be focused in a variety of areas with the goal of making this car a fast, reliable, and comfortable street and strip machine. With our plans all sorted out, it was now time to pull the old beast out of the cold night air and into the garage. Strangely enough, this is the very first time that my Grand National has taken a ride on the lift that we installed a year ago. I had already spent a good number of hours laying under this machine, doing small maintenance jobs over the last couple years, so it'll be great to be able to stand under it while tackling the various tasks at hand. With our clipboard in hand, it was time for our first task, which is a complete checkup. I used a vehicle safety inspection checklist that I found on the internet to make sure I didn't overlook anything. This is the first time I've had such a good view of the undercarriage, and it reminds me of why it's fun to work on good old American cars. Everything is big and beefy. This car has had a noisy rear end since I got it. So back in May of 2011, I decided to investigate the rear differential to see what was going on. I was greeted with a flood of very bad-looking metallic-colored gear oil. Upon closer examination, the wear pattern on the ring and pinion looked terrible, which explains the pronounced whine while under load. I knew I would have to address this issue soon, but at the time I decided to button it back up and tackle it later. Well, it's later now, and time to get this sorted out. This really won't improve our performance, but it will make the cabin much quieter, and we'll have peace of mind that the rear end is good and strong and will take us wherever we want to go without a problem. To begin removal of the rear end, first I unbolted and removed the drive shaft. Next, I removed the wheels in order to disassemble the rear drum brakes. I really don't like drum brakes. Once I took apart all of the springs, shoes, and other doodads, I freed up the e-brake cables. Then it was time to unbolt the upper and lower control arms, shocks, and brake lines. Once all of that was unhooked, the rear end was ready to be dropped out of the home it's occupied for the last 26 years. As much as I'd like to tackle the job of setting up the rear end myself, I've been really strapped for time lately and also don't have many of the tools needed to do it properly. So I decided to let the pros handle this one. I loaded this ungainly hunk of steel into the old Dragon Wagon and headed out. I decided to pay a visit to Chip's Transmissions, which is a local shop that came highly recommended. Along with my noisy rear, I also dropped off a big pile of new parts. First, we've got a set of stock replacement U-joints for the drive shaft, a 342 ring and pinion set from Richmond Gear, a complete installation kit also from Richmond that includes all the necessary bearings, shims, seals, bolts, and gaskets, a new pinion yoke from Yukon Gear, new Mosier axles, and to finish it off, new wheel studs. While the rear end was off getting rebuilt, I picked up a set of new rear upper and lower control arms from UMI Performance. This is a great modification that helps reduce traction loss and minimizes wheel hop found with stock control arms. They will also support our goal of improving performance off the line. They have a great looking powder-coated finish, offer reinforced provisions for the factory sway bar, have greasable polyurethane bushings, and best of all, are made in the USA. I couldn't wait to get these installed, so I got right to removing the old factory control arms. With the old control arms off of the car, we can now compare them to the new ones. You can clearly see and feel the strength of the new parts. Also, I'm sure the old cracked and wore out bushings weren't helping things back there either. Instead of buying new control arm bolts, I decided to clean up the stock ones, which were in good condition, but just needed a little attention. I find small jobs like restoring factory bolts to be relaxing. It's also an added bonus that they save room in the budget versus buying new ones. The results speak for themselves. Oh, and just be sure to wear safety glasses, gloves, and most importantly, keep your mouth closed when using the bench grinder. Using our cleaned up bolts, it was time to install our new control arms. We'll leave these bolts loose for now, as you need the vehicle's weight on the rear end in order to properly torque them down. With our freshened up differential back home, it was a perfect time to clean it up a bit. To do this, I used some degreaser, wire wheels, and Summit Racing's general chassis enamel, which worked very well. It goes on thick and dries quickly to reveal a tough, glossy surface. I was really impressed by this paint, and we'll be spraying it on all sorts of stuff. And here's the finished product. It turned out great! It was now time to lift it up and bolt it back in. With the rear end in place, I attached the upper control arms and slid the springs in. Then I bolted up the lower control arms, attached the shocks, and finally bolted the rear sway bar back in. So after reinstalling and bleeding the brakes, here's the finished rear end. I'm real happy with how everything turned out and can't wait to take it for a drive. Thanks for watching, and thanks especially for subscribing to my channel and liking my videos and visiting my Facebook page too. I really appreciate all that support. We've got a long way to go on the Grand National, but we've made some good progress already. So stay tuned for some really cool stuff coming up on it very soon. So with that said, thanks again folks. We'll see you next time.